More than 600 drones. Not over a battlefield, not in some theoretical public safety exercise, but more than 600 drones reportedly seized near World Cup cities in the United States, around stadiums, fan zones, and crowds, and around temporary flight restriction areas. Now, that's not a future problem, that's a right now problem. And I think it tells something more important. For years, public safety has talked about drones, but they've talked about drones as tools. Drones for search and rescue, drones as first responders, drones for fire scenes and tactical overwatch, and drones for disaster response. But now we're seeing the other side of drones in the conversation. Unauthorized drones, unidentified drones, careless drones, curious drones, and potentially dangerous drones. So the question's no longer whether drones are coming to public safety, they're already here. The real question is whether public safety is ready for the drone problem that arrived before many drone programs were ready. And that's coming up next on TiPS Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch, and I'm a NENA certified ENP. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I bring you the latest in telecommunications news and public safety technology. Today, once again, the conversation turns to drones, but not the shiny side of drones, not the drone as a first responder side, and not the cool video from the sky. No, today we're talking about unauthorized drones flying around major public events. Reuters recently reported that U.S. agencies seized more than 600 drones flying near World Cup stadiums and fan zones after FAA restrictions were put in place. And The Guardian similarly reported that the FBI seized more than 600 drones flying illegally around U.S. World Cup stadiums. And activity was reported across all 11 U.S. host cities. Now, I think that number matters. Not because every drone was hostile, most were probably not. Some were probably hobbyists, some were tourists, some were people who simply didn't understand the restrictions. But public safety can't assume intent when an unauthorized aircraft suddenly appears over a crowded venue. Now, a drone over a stadium may be harmless, or it may not be. And in the first few minutes, the people responsible for the event are not going to know the difference. And that uncertainty is the operational problem. Stadiums are the proving grounds. Yeah, our large public venues expose weaknesses. Stadiums bring together thousands of people, private security, local police, fire, EMS, and emergency management, and forgotten agencies like Public Works, Transportation, federal partners, media, and the Emergency Communications Center. And when you think about it, that's a ton of moving parts. Now add an unauthorized drone. Who sees it first? Police officer, security guard, a fan, or a drone detection system? Maybe a federal partner, or a camera operator working for the media. But once someone sees it, who owns the next step? Because that's where it gets really complicated. Drones create questions fast. Is it authorized? Who launched it? Where's the operator? Is it recording? Is it carrying anything? Is it near a crowd? Is it near a command post? Is it interfering with public safety aviation? Or is it something that's part of the event plan, public safety, or a threat to the event? Yeah, those questions can't be answered by guesswork. They need a plan, they need roles, they need legal authority. And most of all, they need communication paths that are already understood before the drone shows up. Detection is not mitigation. I think one of the biggest mistakes in the drone conversation is treating detection like a solution. No, detection's not a solution. Detection is the start of the problem. You see, once a drone's detected, someone's got to decide whether that information is credible. Is it really a drone? Is it one drone or several? Where's it going? How close is it to the protected area? Is there an authorized flight operation nearby? Can the operator be located? Does the event command post need to change its posture? Do we need law enforcement response? Does public safety aviation need to be grounded? How does the ECC need to prepare for calls? And should we even tell the public anything? Yeah, detection creates information, but mitigation requires authority. And authority is not always simple. Local public safety agencies generally can't assume they've got the right to jam, disable, seize, or interfere with a drone just because it's inconvenient or suspicious. Now, counter-drone response lives in a complicated legal and operational space. Federal agencies, the FAA, DHS, FBI, local police, venue operators, and emergency management may all have a role. But if these roles aren't defined before the incident, the drone's going to expose that gap immediately. So buying a detection system doesn't create a counter-drone program. Installing sensors doesn't create a response plan. Seeing a drone does not mean you know what to do next. And knowing what should happen doesn't always mean you have the legal authority to do it. And that's the reality check. Federal authority, local responsibility. This is where public safety gets stuck in the mud. The airspace may be federally regulated. The event may be locally managed. The venue, well, that's privately operated. The crowd's protected by local police and fire. Drone detection might be run by a federal team. And the first 911 call, well, that might land at the local ECC. When you think about it, wow, that's a complicated chain. But the public doesn't care about the chain. They expect the system to work. They expect someone to know what to do. They expect the city, the stadium, the county, the state, federal partners all to be on the same page. And that's really easy to say. But as we all know, that's really hard to build. Because drone readiness is not just about technology. It's about governance. It's about who's in charge. It's about who confirms the drone is unauthorized, who communicates with the FAA, who notifies the command post, who looks for the operator, and who decides whether the event continues, pauses, shelters, or evacuates. And somebody's got to tell the ECC what language to use when calls start coming in, because trust me, they will. And somebody's got to prevent overreaction. That really matters, because the answer to a drone isn't panic. It's a measured response, a trained response, a legally grounded response. What ECCs need to know. So what's all this got to do with 911? Well, a lot. Because the ECCs might be the first place where the drone problem becomes visible. Caller sees a drone over a stadium, a resident reports a drone near a school, security guard reports a drone over a plant, or a police officer sees it over a crowd, a fire unit sees one near a landing zone, or a hospital reports one near the helipad. Yeah, suddenly the ECC is part of the drone response. And if there's no procedure, the call taker or dispatcher is left to figure it out live. That's not fair. It's not safe. And ECCs certainly don't need to become aviation regulators overnight. What they need is plain language procedures. Where's the drone? What's it over? Is it hovering or moving? How many are there? Is it near a crowd? Is it near an aircraft, helipad, or landing zone? Can the caller see the operator? Is there any perceived immediate danger? Is there an active event plan or a command post? Or is there a designated law enforcement contact in the area? These are all practical intake questions. Then comes the dispatch side. Who do I notify? Police, fire, EMS, emergency management, the event command post, the airport or helipad. Do I need a state or federal contact? Yeah, that's a lot of stuff, and the ECC needs guidance before the call comes in. Because when that first report comes in, the dispatcher better not be guessing. This is not just a stadium problem. Look, the World Cup makes the issue visible, but this isn't just about sports. Think about a chemical plant, a refinery, a school, hospital, or a rail yard. Think about utility substations, data centers, corporate headquarters, or a large warehouse. Many of these locations already have cameras, security teams, access control, emergency plans, and internal communications. But what happens when a drone shows up overhead? Does security call 911? Do they call local police directly? Do they call the FAA? Do they activate an internal incident plan? Maybe they can share video or location with the ECC. Does the ECC know if that site has got hazmat materials, sensitive operations, or restricted areas? And that's where enterprise emergency planning and public safety have got to meet. The drone doesn't care whether the location is public or private. It's got a mission, and it just shows up. And the system is left to analyze and respond. The bottom line: 600 World Cup seizures needs to be a wake-up call. Not because every unauthorized drone's a major threat. It's not. But it could be. And because the scale of the problem shows that unauthorized drone activity is no longer an edge case, it's part of the modern public safety environment. And when it shows up around crowded venues, restricted airspace, critical infrastructure, and emergency operations, it's a problem. For years, public safety has focused on how agencies can use drones. Now we have to focus just as seriously on how agencies respond to drones. Yeah, the drone problem arrived before many drone programs were ready. Certainly detection matters, but detection isn't mitigation. Mitigation is going to require authority, and authority requires law. Law requires coordination, and coordination requires planning, and planning has to include the ECC. Because when that first call comes in, the dispatcher can't be left guessing. But the drone is not the whole problem. The real problem is whether the system knows what to do when the drone appears overhead. That's it for this episode of TiPS. Stay safe. We'll catch you next time. Take care. Hey, it's Fletch. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you learned something new. Remember to catch all of my previous episodes of TiPS, Today in Public Safety, published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on most social media platforms and streaming 24/7 at 911tips.com. My blogs are located at fletch.tv, and my personal website is at fletch911.com. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out the algorithms. And if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
You've been listening to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Catch past episodes on 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG 911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret it for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.